In this video, I'm going to show you how to manually install WordPress using SFTP, that's Secure File Transfer Protocol. And I'm going to be using FileZilla, which is a free FTP client that you can get at filezilla-project.org. And this is, of course, if you don't already have an FTP client. But if you are going to use FileZilla and you get to this page, be sure to use the client download button, not the server, because you want client, not server. Now, in addition to the FTP client, we also need to head over to wordpress.org/download to download the most recent version of WordPress. And there's some additional goodies on this page too that you might want to bookmark for future reference. It might answer some questions that I may not cover during this video. Let's go ahead and download WordPress while we're here. Navigate to a location on your computer where you want to download that file to, and click on Save. That downloads it because it's only about 7 megabytes, so it shouldn't take too long. And let me give you a quick overview of what we're going to be doing here. We're downloading WordPress, which we've just done, and we want to unzip that download file, and I'll show you that here in just a second, because we want to upload the contents of that folder, not the folder itself. And while that's uploading to our server, we're going to create a database, and I'm going to do this using my cPanel control panel. And then once we build our database and we've got the files uploaded, we need to connect the two, and we do that through the install path, and we're going to demonstrate that here in just a second. Enter a few more details, and voila, our WordPress site is installed and ready to go. So let's get started. I've got the WordPress files downloaded, and they're in a zip file, so I would need to unzip that. And I use 7-Zip. It's a free extractor program. You might also have one that's already built into your computer, whether it's a Mac or a PC. So either way, 7-Zip is free. You can get that at 7-zip.org, I believe. Go ahead and extract that. And just paranoid me, I always check for viruses no matter who I download the file from. So we're good to go there. Now then, let's go ahead and open up our FTP client. And again, I'm using FileZilla. Over here on the left is my computer. Over here on the right is the server that we're going to be connecting to right now by way of SFTP. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. I'm going to use the site manager. And I've already got mine set up. And I went to New Site, entered this name, and then entered the information over here on the right, like the host name, the port, change the default FTP to SFTP, change the default anonymous to normal, and entered the user and the password. Now, if you don't know what this stuff is, go ahead and contact your hosting service and ask them. Tell them what you're doing. You're installing WordPress on your server, and you're using SFTP on FileZilla. What's the host name, the port, the username and password that I need to enter into those boxes to get connected? And also, while you have them on the line or on the email, ask them what the database host name is. I'll get to that here in just a second, but that is something you're going to need to know when installing WordPress. So go ahead and ask them while you got them if you need to contact them for this information. And then once all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, usually, by the way, the port is 22. If it does not work, because it doesn't always work for me, I would just need to contact the hosting service and ask them what's the port for a secure connection. Click on Connect. And if all goes well, then over here on the right, you'll see the stuff that's inside of my server. Now, I'm going to be installing WordPress on the root directory, which in my case is public_HTML. I'm just going to double click on that, and here's where my files are going to go. Now then, over here on the left, I want to open up the folder that I've downloaded that WordPress folder to and have unzipped it. And I want to open that unzipped folder because all I want to upload is the contents of that unzipped folder. So I select the top folder, hold the Shift key down on my keyboard, select the bottom file, and then left click, hold, and drag all these guys over here to the right, and that begins the upload process. As you can see, it's a little over 1,200 files. So that's going to take, depending upon the internet speed, anywhere between a couple of minutes if you're really fast to 10 to even 15 minutes if you've got a mediocre internet connection. Well, by the way, on FileZilla, you know that you're connected securely if over here on the lower right corner, you've got this padlock here that when you hover over it, it says the connection is encrypted. Click icon for details. That's just off the video, but that's what it says. Okay, so while this is uploading, we're going to head over to our cPanel and build our database. Now, I've already logged into my cPanel control panel. Come on down here till you get to MySQL databases. Click on that. Now we want to create a database name, a database username, and record both of those items and the password. Let's go ahead and do that now. Now, the database name and username can be anything. Now, there are some naming restrictions, but if you enter something incorrectly, you'll get an error message and tell you what needs to be fixed. Then I want to copy the stuff in between those double quotes and record that because we're going to need that here in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and paste that right here. Now, for me, I always create my username to be exactly the same as my database name. That's just me. You don't have to do that, but that's just me. And for the password, I always use a password generator because it generates a nice strong password. So I want to copy that, check that box saying that I've done that, click on Use Password, click on Create User, and I want to paste that password before I forget it, and then click on Go Back. Now that we've got username and database created, we need to connect the two. Now, if you've got multiple users and multiple databases, hit the drop-down box here, select the correct one. I only have the one. Click on Add. That's going to add the user to the database. Check the box next to All Privileges. Scroll down a bit, click on Make Changes, and we're done. We have successfully created our database, added the username to that, and we're good. So get this guy out of the way here. Let's bring back FileZilla, see how our upload's going. We're a little more than halfway done. But through the magic of video editing, this will only take another second. And we're finished. So now then we are done with FileZilla. Let's go ahead and open up our browser, open up a new tab, and we want to enter the install path. That's our domain name /wp-admin/install.php. That'll begin the installation process where we match together our WordPress install with our database. And if everything worked properly, we'll get this pop-up asking us to select the language we want our WordPress site to be in. I'm going to stick with English. Click on Continue. Tells you the stuff that you're going to need here in just a second. We've got all that right here. Database name, username, in my case it's the same, and the password. And go ahead and read over the rest of the stuff here, and then click on Let's Go. And here's the database host name that I was talking about earlier. More times than not, it's going to be localhost. But if it isn't, then find out from your hosting service what it is and put that in there. Go ahead and put in my database name, username, and password. And when you're copying and pasting like I am here, make sure that you're not copying any blank spaces or ghost characters because you will get an error message. And I always change the table prefix from the default WP underscore to anything else because the hackers know that by default that's what it is. And this is just one more way in which they can break into your WordPress site. So let's not make it easy for them. And then click on Submit. Oh, and by the way, also for another reason to change the table prefix is if you're going to be running multiple WordPress installations, but that's the makings of a different video altogether. So just for security reasons, change the table prefix. Click on Submit. And now then click on Run the Install. And we're going to need to enter the site title, a username, which should not be admin, should be anything other than admin, and gives you some little hints right here on what you can use. And we want to copy the username and the password onto our text document here, because we're going to need that to log in here in just a second. And you want to also enter an email address. Make sure the email address you have here is a good one that you will be able to access. And I always uncheck this box here until I'm done building my WordPress site. I don't want the search engines to index it. I don't want the world to know about my site until I want them to. And I'll show you here in a second how you can reactivate this inside of WordPress. So let's go ahead and enter these details and then click on Install WordPress. And that's my robo form that keeps popping up there. And if everything goes right, we get this. Now then, let's click on Login. Enter the information we recorded, like our username and password. Now, don't get these confused with the username and password for our database. That's a whole different ball of wax. We want the login stuff for our WordPress site. And you can check this box here next to Remember Me or not. And then click on Login. And this is our WordPress site. This is the admin area or the dashboard area of our WordPress site. Now we come on down here to Settings, Reading, And once you've got your WordPress site all built up and pretty the way you like it to be, and then untick this box here for search engine visibility. Because whenever I untick that box during the install process, that automatically ticked this box that says discourage search engines from indexing this site. Well, whenever you want the world to know about your site, come on back in here, untick that box, click on Save Changes, and you're solid. And that's going to bring us to the end of this video on manually installing WordPress using SFTP and FileZilla. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day. In this video, I'm going to show you the easy way to install WordPress onto your server using what's called a one-click installation program. And technically it does take more than one click, but it's a heck of a lot easier than doing it the manual way. Anyway, I've already logged into my cPanel control panel. Let's go ahead and scroll down here a little bit until we get to the Software and Services module. And this is the program I'm going to be demonstrating on, and this is called Softaculous. There's actually several different programs similar to this. Another one might be Installatron or Simple Scripts. They all do pretty much the same thing, and that is make installing applications a lot easier on your server. So let's go ahead and click on Softaculous to open that up. And we want to install WordPress. You can see over here all the different applications that can be installed using this type of method, that being a couple of clicks and you're done. But we want to click on WordPress. That'll bring us to the overview page. You can read up on the program here and all the other technical stuff related to WordPress, features, screenshots, demos, and so on. But we want to click on Install. And if you have an SSL certificate assigned to your domain, you might want to hit the drop down here and choose the HTTPS protocol, but I'm going to stick with the HTTP. And if you have multiple domains, you might want to hit the drop down box here and choose the one you want to install this WordPress site on. I'm going to leave it at that. And if you want to install WordPress on a subdirectory named WP or blog or members or whatever, then just type the name in here. And as it says here, that directory cannot exist because this program will automatically create that directory and install WordPress inside of that directory. I myself am going to install it on my root directory, meaning that to get to my WordPress site, all you have to do is type in the domain name and boom, you're right there on my WordPress site. Now, that said, you can do both. You can install WordPress on your main domain, then come back in here and install another WordPress site inside of a subdirectory on that domain. For that matter, you can do it multiple times, but that's the makings of a different video altogether. So for now, I'm just going to leave that blank. Come on down here to database settings. I am going to change the table prefix to something other than the default WP underscore for security reasons, because any hacker that's worth his salt knows that the default table prefix is WP underscore, and that just gives them one more way in which they can break into your site. Now I've got this text document here I'm going to be copying and pasting stuff onto, like the username and password, for example, to be able to log into our WordPress site here in just a second. The site settings, the site name and description, you can enter that here. I'm going to leave this alone for now. You can change this inside of the WordPress admin area and to the admin account where you create your username and your password to be able to log into your site. You do not want to have admin as your username, so change that to anything other than admin. And the password, you want this to be a nice strong password. You can use this key over here to help you out. That'll just generate a random string of text like uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers, special characters, and this gives you a 60 out of 100 in strength. To increase that, just start adding additional characters. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this onto my text document over here. And the admin email, you want to make sure that this is a working email address that you have access to. Then choose the language you want your WordPress site to be in. And under select plugins, limit login attempts has not been updated for a couple of years, but it's a solid layer of security to be added to my WordPress site, because basically it helps prevent people from guessing repeatedly your username and your password until they actually break into your site. So I'm going to go ahead and check that box to have that plugin automatically installed. Now, this option is not available on all one-click installation programs, so you might want to note this particular plugin so that after your WordPress site is installed, you go ahead and install and activate this plugin as well. Now, under Advanced Options, just go ahead and click on that to open it up. You can change the database name here if you want. I'm going to leave it alone. Then you have these other options here where you can disable update notifications, auto upgrade, check that box to automatically upgrade your core WordPress install. Same with the WordPress plugins and themes that are also installed on your site. I myself leave these unchecked. This is a personal preference. I would much rather be a little more in control of how things are done on my site than just to have them automatically done, but that's totally up to you. Automated backups and backup rotation. If you are not using a third-party backup program, then this is a good tool to have in place. Depending upon the amount of content that you add to your site on a regular basis, you may want to choose backup once a day, once a week, or once a month. And if you do, then you have this backup rotation. 4 is a good number to go with. Basically what happens here is if you choose 4, then the 5th backup that takes place, the oldest backup is automatically deleted from your server, so you only have 4 on your server at any one time. Unlimited is not a good idea because you'll just end up bogging down your server with all those backups. But I'm going to go ahead and leave this as don't backup because I'm going to be using a third-party backup tool for mine. And under themes, if you want to select a theme at this point, you can do that. This is an option that you can take care of inside of your installed WordPress program at a later date. Until then, the default WordPress theme is automatically installed and activated as soon as we hit the install button, which I'm going to do now. And boom, we're done. That actually was the one-click part of the one-click installation. Now, if you want to check out the site, you just click this link here. Rather bland at this point, but that's our WordPress site. And to log into your WordPress site, just click on the administrative URL, into the username and the password. And this pops up because I had also installed that limit login attempts plugin. And if you attempt 4 times to incorrectly guess a username and or password, you're going to be locked out. So enter the username and password, click on login, and you can check the box there for remember me if you want or not. And this is our dashboard area or the administrator part of our site. And that's going to bring us to the end of this video on installing WordPress on your server the easy way, using one of the one-click installation programs. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day. One way to help keep your WordPress site secure is to only use secure file transfer when transferring files to and from your WordPress site. Now, if you are manually installing your WordPress site using an FTP client, kind of like FileZilla, like what I'm going to be demonstrating with here, then only use SFTP. That's S as in secure, FTP. Now, if you are, for example, prompted within your WordPress site to supply your FTP credentials in order to update plugins and or the WordPress files, then instead of doing it that way, go ahead and use your outside FTP client like FileZilla and only use the SFTP option. Now in this demo, I'm going to show you just how easy and fast it is to set up the free FileZilla FTP client software for secure file transfer. Now I've already downloaded, installed, and opened up my FileZilla program. Come on up here to File. Oh wait, before we do that, let me bring in my handy dandy little timer here. Show you just how fast it is of that easy and fast part I was talking about. Come on up here to File, go to Site Manager. I'm going to go to New Site. And you don't really have to do it this way, but I'm going to keep things permanent in here, at least for this demo. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a name. And you can name it whatever you want. And over here, put in your host name. Now, if you were given a host name like ftp.mydomainname.com or whatever, or www, then you do not want to put in any prefix. You want to leave off the ftp dot or the www dot and only put in the domain part .com or .net or whatever your host was. And this is information you get, by the way, from your web hosting service when you first purchase your hosting account. Now under port, this is where it got a little hairy for me. I put in port 22. That's what you're supposed to do with secure transfer or for the SFTP. But that did not work for me, so I contacted my hosting company, which is what you want to do if it doesn't work for you. And they told me, well, for me, I need a different number, 7978. Now here under protocol, hit that drop down, go to SFTP, and the rest of the stuff here is just like you would normally log in to your normal FTP account. Under login type, I'm going to go with normal, And under user and password, just put in the username and password that was given to you by your hosting account. And that's what I'm going to do now, copying and pasting. Now, whenever you're copying and pasting like I do, then you want to make sure that you're not adding any additional white marks or blank spaces to the beginning or to the end of that password or username. And you can just put whatever comments you want in there and click on connect. And you'll know that you're connected securely by down here in the lower right corner, you'll see a little padlock there. And that is how quick and easy it is to set up your secure file transfer, or SFTP, using the free FileZilla FTP client. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day. In this video, I'm going to show you how to secure your WordPress site by showing you a couple of ways to secure your wp-config.php file. One way we're going to do that is by moving it from where it is to where the bad guys can't find it. Now, since there are arguments on both sides of the fence that doing this will secure your site or doing this will not secure your site, I'm also going to show you another way to secure your config file by adding some code to your .htaccess file. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, I want to give you a little public service announcement. First, before you do any playing around with code or messing with moving files, you want to make sure that you have a current full backup. That's a backup of both your files and your database. So before you do anything, get your full backup done. Secondly, the moving of the wp-config.php file will not work at all. Matter of fact, it will break your site if your WordPress site is installed on a subdomain or if it's a multi-site setup. So that's another reason why I want to show you another way of securing your config file by adding code to your .htaccess file, just in case your WordPress site is installed on a subdirectory or is a multi-site setup. Because again, if it is a subdirectory or it's a multi-site setup, do not do the moving of the config file. That will not only not work, it will break your site. Okay, that said, let's get to work. I'm going to be doing this within my cPanel control panel. You can do pretty much the same thing if you are using something like FileZilla or an FTP client. But for me, it's just a lot easier to do it within File Manager of my cPanel control panel. So I've already logged into cPanel, click on File Manager, and here is the wp-config.php file. Now we're not talking about the one that has -sample in it. That's basically just trash right now. We could just delete that and not have to worry about it, but we'll leave it alone for now. The one we're going to be moving is right here, wp-config.php. Now first off, I want to demonstrate that the site is working. Click on my blog. Okay, hello world. It's a brand new installation, so there's nothing on there. What do we got here? Yep, okay, so everything's working just fine. So we come on back to File Manager, and let's just select our wp-config.php file. And right now, it is located in the root directory. It's located inside of the public_HTML folder. You hit the drop down there. You can see that it is right in here along with these guys here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it outside of or up a level from the root directory. I'm going to put it in the same directory as the public_HTML. I just left click, hold, and drag it on up there. And you can see it's gone from here. Just go ahead and reload this. Yep, it's definitely gone. And if I click on this to show you all the contents of this, you can see the public_HTML right here. If I scroll down, you'll see the config file right here. So we have successfully moved it. Come on back to the site, and let's just click on that, and click on that. Yep, we're still working just fine. Okay, so that's how you can move the config file and it be working just fine. Now let's come on back here and bring it back. Select it, left click, hold, and drag it over to the public_HTML directory or folder. And there it is. Okay, so we're back in business now. Now the other way is by adding some code to your .htaccess file. Now, if yours is a brand new installation of WordPress, you might not have this just yet. In which case, one way to do it is to come on up here and click on Create File and name it, put a period there, HT Access, click on Create New File. That's one way to do it. But I've already got one made, so I'm going to select it and then right click and click on Edit. And you want to come on up here to the very top, and this is where you want to enter this code. Now, this code I'm going to be including along with this video as a separate copy and paste file. There's not a whole lot to it, but just in case you don't want to pause the video and take a chance on getting anything wrong here, I got you covered. Basically, you've got this, what is that, a less than bracket, files space wp-config.php, greater than bracket, next line order space allow, comma, deny, next line deny space from space all, next line you got the less than / files greater than, basically just to close out this argument. And that's it. Come on over here, click on Save, click on Close, and now nobody has access to that wp-config file except for you and anybody else that has access to your server. And that's it. We have now added an additional layer of security to our WordPress site by securing the wp-config.php file a couple of different ways. And that's going to bring us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day. This video is going to show you how to secure your WordPress site by making it even harder for the hackers to break into your site. So if your administrative login username is admin, then you're giving the hackers half of their job whenever they try to break into your site. Also, more sophisticated hackers might find a way in if you are using the #1 user slot on your database. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a second. So we're going to plug both of these potential security holes, and this will discourage most hackers, and they'll just simply move on to someone else's site that isn't as safe as yours. Here's how we do that. Go ahead and log into your admin area, which I've already done in this tab. Come on down to Users and click on Create New User or Add New. And right now, you're logged in as administrator. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Matter of fact, if we click on this link here, open it in a new tab, I'll show you all the users that we've got on our site so far, just the one, but it has the role of administrator and the username is admin. And if we come on over to our cPanel control panel, scroll on down until we get to PHP My Admin, and this is the one here that I'm looking for. Under users, you can see right here under ID, #1. That's the other hole that we need to plug. And here's how we're going to do that. If we come on back here to our add new user, we're going to create a new administrator account for us, and we're going to delete the other one. And this new administrator account is not only going to not have admin as the username, it's also not going to be on the #1 slot. It'll be on the next slot, which in this case is #2. And we get on down here to role, hit the drop down, click on administrator, and we want to click on show password. Go ahead and copy that. And I've got a plain text document here that I'm keeping on my desktop to keep tabs on all my login stuff. Actually, I've got a couple of password managers, LastPass and RoboForm, that does all this stuff for me. But for the sake of this video, we're going to stick with the plain text document. So let's paste that password in here. Username is Stan with a capital S. And get this guy out of the way. And click on Add New User. That was the RoboForm thing I was talking about. Okay, so now then we cannot delete this admin account because we're currently logged in as that. So what we need to do now is log out and then log back in with our new account. And now come on back to users, all users. And now we're logged in as Stan, so we can delete the admin. As you see, as we hover over this, we have the delete option, whereas if we hover over this one, we don't. That's just a safety measure, I guess. But go ahead and click on delete, delete all content. Actually, let's go ahead and keep the sample stuff and associate it to the new user. Click on confirm deletion and bye-bye admin. Now if we come on back over here to our database and then come on back to users, you can see that we are now in the #2 slot for users, and we no longer have the user login as admin. So those potential security holes are now plugged. And that's going to bring us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and you have a great day. You can have all the security features in place for your WordPress site, but if they are all on an infected server in your web hosting account, then your site can still get infected. Now, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer here, because this is the worst case scenario and may never happen, but you should plan for the worst and hope for the best. Now, with this in mind, it's best to plan on moving your sites to a VPS, that stands for Virtual Private Server, or a dedicated server as soon as your budget allows for it, as soon as you can afford it. Now, as far as starting out and using a shared hosting plan, like most of us do that are on a budget, there's a couple of questions that you should ask the hosting company before you purchase an account from them. Number one, how often do you run malware scans on your servers? Not individual accounts, but on the servers that those accounts reside. And number two, do you do backups of your account? And if so, how often? And is it free? And if not, how much is this extra going to cost me? Now, there are plenty of other questions to ask in general, just like, say, how many domains can I have on my account? How many email accounts can I have? What's the bandwidth limitations, and so on. But most of these are actually spelled out on the hosting company's websites. So if you're wanting to save a ton of time and research, then you can contact a guy named Jim at tvcnet.com. Let me just show you here. That's tvcnet.com, and then it'll just redirect you to this site here. And you can use the phone number if you've got questions, and they've got a complete list here of all the different types of services that they offer, and the prices are very reasonable. The main kicker here is you've got the daily malware scan, and they also provide the backups. So definitely include tvcnet.com in your list of researching websites for your future hosting account. Now, once you've got your hosting setup taken care of and everything's all safe and secure, if you want to find out now what Google thinks of your site as far as it being infected or not, then here is a URL for you to check into. Let me just bring this over here. And you can just replace this www.example.com with your URL, like, for example, this right here. And I'll show you an example of what it's going to look like. I think that'll work. I don't think I need the www in front of mine. Just copy this and paste this in the address bar here. And this is the results of what you should get if your page is clean. What is the current listing status for your domain? And it'll tell you here if your site is listed as suspicious or not, and hopefully it's not suspicious, and so on. And there's a host of other goodies over at the Webmaster Tools that you can rely on to keep your site safe, secure, and indexed too. But that's a story for a different video. Now, if you already have a hosting company and do not want to move, then you might want to consider some type of site monitoring service. And you can set one up like what I'm about to show you, and it's free. Or there are free services and there are paid services that'll monitor your website on a constant basis. Now, both paid and free have their pros and cons, and you can do a search for website monitoring service and come up with a little over 150 million results. So there's no shortages of options to choose from here. But let's go ahead and look at a way that you can do this for free, and it's going to take less than 5 minutes to set up. And this is called Google Alerts for Malware. So what you want to first figure out is a list of all the keywords that you want Google to alert you about if they happen to pop up on your site. For example, if your WordPress site has nothing to do whatsoever with pharmaceuticals, and you want to be alerted the first time that something ends up on your site having to do with Cialis or Viagra or porn or any other type of keyword that you know you didn't have anything to do with putting on your site, and it shows up there. If you want to be alerted to that, here's how you do it. Let me go ahead and pull in my handy dandy little timer here, set at 5 minutes. Let's go ahead and start this off. Now we want to head over to Google Alerts, and I believe it's google.com alerts /alerts. I believe. Yes, it is. And here's the search query that we want to put in there. You want to put in site:/yourdomain.com or whatever your domain is. And then you want to put in a space and then the keywords that you want to search for. Let me just show you that on this text document here. Right here. This is what you want to put in. Site, your domain, replace this with your actual domain if it's .info, .com, .org, whatever. Space, then the keyword you want to search for, and then a space, then the word or, space, another keyword. So for example, Cialis, space, or, space, Viagra, space, or, space, whatever else you want to put in there that you want to be alerted about. And then once you do that, let's get this out of the way here, then you want to result type. I'd say everything. And you can always come back and adjust this later if you're just getting too much information. Hopefully you won't get any information. That's the goal here. How often? I'd say at least once a day. And because remember, this is free, so why not? How many? Only the best results? I'd say all results. And then your email address that you want the alerts to be sent to. Then click on Create Alert, and you're good to go. Now, if you have several alerts in here, because maybe you're fluent with Google Alerts, then you can go here to Manage Your Alerts to go in and edit any alerts that you have set up, or to see if you need to make any adjustments on any of those current alerts you've got already created. And there you go. You see, you're able to do this site monitoring for free in under 5 minutes. And that's going to bring us to the end of this video on site monitoring and web hosting the secure way. Thanks for watching. You have a great day.